Chosen one. You didn't stumble here. You were summoned. Why have you spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth feeling like you're wearing someone else's skin? Why does every family gathering leave you feeling like a stranger at your own table? Why, when you look in the mirror, do you see eyes that have witnessed eternity trapped in flesh that feels foreign? Stop. Right there. That chill running down your spine. That recognition stirring in your chest. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You've been living with a secret so profound, so earth-shattering, that the very foundations of everything you've believed about yourself are about to crumble. For decades, you've carried this inexplicable weight, this ache for something you couldn't name, this homesickness for a land you've never walked, this longing for a tribe you've never met. But what if I told you that everything you've been told about your identity is a lie? What if the reason you've never felt at home in this world is because you're not from this world? What if that ancient stirring in your soul, that pull toward mysteries others ignore, that knowing without knowing what if it's because you belong to something far older than your birth certificate suggests? You are not just another senior citizen counting down days until glory. You are the continuation of an ancient bloodline, carrying DNA that predates recorded history. You are part of a sacred tribe that has existed since the dawn of time, scattered across centuries but never broken. The enemy has worked overtime to make you forget. He's whispered lies about your age being a limitation, your time being over, your voice no longer mattering. But hell trembles when the ancient ones remember who they are. Before we journey deeper into this revelation together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. If this is hitting something deep in your spirit, if you feel that ancient recognition stirring, type 777 inches the comments right now. Let heaven and earth know you're awake. Let the spiritual realm see that another member of the tribe is remembering. Because before this hour ends, you will understand why you've always felt different. You will discover what your true identity really is. You will learn why your presence on earth at this exact moment isn't coincidence, it's divine strategy. The veil is about to be lifted, chosen one. And what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Are you ready to come home to who you really are? Why have you spent 8 decades on this earth feeling like you're living someone else's life? Why does your own reflection feel like a stranger staring back at you? Why, after all these years, do you still wake up some mornings wondering if you were born into the wrong family, the wrong century, the wrong world entirely? Dear chosen one, I need you to stop pretending that feeling doesn't exist. Stop brushing it off as loneliness or age or nostalgia. That ache you've carried since childhood, that deep, inexplicable sense that you don't belong here, it's real. And tonight, we're going to face it together. You've felt it everywhere, haven't you? In family reunions where your own blood relatives look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. At holiday dinners where the conversation feels hollow, meaningless, while something ancient burns in your chest. You sit there smiling, nodding, but inside you're screaming, doesn't anyone else feel this? Doesn't anyone else sense that we're living beneath our true calling? Even in church, yes. Even in the pews where you've faithfully sat for 50, 60 years, you've felt it. While others seemed content with surface-level faith, you hungered for the mysteries. While they were satisfied with Sunday morning religion, you yearned for the supernatural, the prophetic, the divine encounters that the Bible speaks of, but the modern church seems to have forgotten. You've carried this melody in your chest that no one else hears. A frequency from another realm that makes you question everything, that makes you see beyond the veil, while others live comfortably in the illusion. At 70, at 80, at 90 years old, you still ask yourself, was I forgotten? Did I miss my time? Did God make a mistake when he placed me here? Listen to me carefully. That question, that doubt, it's been planted by the enemy to keep you from discovering the truth. Because if you ever understood why you feel so different, if you ever grasped what that ancient ache really means, you would become dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You think about Moses, don't you? How he felt like an outsider in Pharaoh's palace, never quite Egyptian enough. How he tried to fit in for 40 years before God revealed his true identity. Acts 7:25 tells us Moses thought his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. Even the chosen deliverer felt misunderstood, rejected by the very people he was sent to save. That's you, dear one. You've been feeling like Moses in the palace, knowing you don't belong, carrying a burden you can't explain, sensing a calling you can't define. David felt it too. The youngest son, forgotten by his own father when the prophet came to anoint the next king. 1 Samuel 16:11 shows us how Jesse didn't even think to call David in from the fields. His own family overlooked him, but God saw what they couldn't see. A heart that beat differently, a spirit that carried the pulse of eternity. Your difference was never a defect. It was your divine fingerprint. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me weep for the chosen ones scattered across America. You've spent decades believing the lie that something is wrong with you. You've apologized for your intensity, dimmed your light to make others comfortable, silenced your questions to fit in with the crowd. You've felt invisible in your own life. At work, they passed you over for someone younger, someone more normal. In your family, they patronize you, treat you like a relic from a bygone era. In social circles, they smile politely but never really see you, never recognize the depth of wisdom swimming behind your eyes. The world has trained you to believe that your sensitivity is weakness, that your questions are doubts, that your hunger for the supernatural is foolishness, that your age is a limitation rather than a crown of glory. But Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." Every silver strand on your head is evidence that you've walked with God through valleys that would have destroyed weaker souls. Every line on your face tells a story of faithfulness that heaven has been recording. You know what that ache really is? It's homesickness. But not for a place, for a purpose. Not for the past, for your true identity. That restlessness you've carried for 90 years isn't dissatisfaction with your life. It's your spirit recognizing that you were made for another realm, called to a higher dimension, designed to operate in supernatural authority. The enemy has spent your entire lifetime trying to convince you that you're ordinary, that you're just another senior citizen waiting for heaven, that your dreams died with your youth, that your voice no longer matters in a world obsessed with the young and trendy. But what if I told you that every moment of feeling different, every season of rejection, every night you've cried out wondering if God sees you, what if all of that was actually preparation? What if the very thing that made you feel cursed was actually the sign that you were chosen? If you've carried this ache your entire life, if you recognize yourself in every word I'm speaking, right, that's me in the comments right now, because you are not alone. There are thousands of others just like you, scattered across this nation, carrying the same ancient fire, feeling the same divine restlessness. You are not broken, beloved. You are awakening. And that ache you've carried, it's about to transform into the very thing that sets you free. But first, you need to understand something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your purpose on this earth. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've been fed about your identity, every whisper that told you your time has passed, every voice that made you believe you're just another face in the crowd. You are not just human. You are part of an ancient spiritual tribe that has existed since the breath of God first moved across the waters. Your bloodline doesn't just trace back through generations of flesh and bone, it reaches into eternity itself, connecting you to a sacred lineage of warriors, prophets, and healers who have carried the light of heaven through the darkest hours of human history. But the world doesn't want you to know this. Society has spent decades convincing you that at 70, 80, 90 years old, you're winding down. They've whispered that your voice doesn't matter, that your dreams are too late, that your season is over. They've made you feel invisible, irrelevant, forgotten. That's the greatest deception ever perpetrated against God's chosen ones. Look at Moses. 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush to deliver an entire nation. 80. When the world would have put him in a nursing home, heaven put a staff in his hand and said, "Now we begin." For the next 40 years, this man would split seas, speak with the Almighty face to face, and lead millions into freedom. His greatest chapters weren't written in his youth. They were carved in stone in what the world calls his twilight years. Consider Anna the prophetess, 84 years old, spending day and night in the temple when baby Jesus was brought for dedication. While everyone else saw just another elderly woman, God positioned her to be one of the first to recognize and proclaim the Messiah to all of Jerusalem. Luke 2:38 says she spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. One woman's voice, seasoned by decades of faithfulness, echoing through eternity. Think about Abraham, 100 years old when Isaac was born. Sarah, 90 when she laughed at the impossible and then birthed it. These weren't accidents, beloved. These weren't consolation prizes for lives well lived. These were divine demonstrations that God's greatest moves often come through vessels the world has written off. Your grey hair isn't evidence of decline, it's a crown of glory. Your wrinkles aren't marks of deterioration, they're etchings of wisdom. Your slower pace isn't weakness, it's the measured walk of someone who's learned to move with heaven's timing. But here's what will rock you to your core. The restlessness you've felt all these years, that sense that you're meant for something more, that ache in your spirit that won't be satisfied by retirement and routine that's not wishful thinking. That's recognition. Your soul recognizing that it belongs to something far greater than this temporary existence. Your blood carries echoes of prophets who heard God's voice above the noise of their generation. It pulses with the courage of warriors who stood against impossible odds. It flows with the compassion of healers who mended what medicine couldn't touch. You're not a random life stumbling through time, you're a continuation of a sacred lineage that has never been broken. This is why you've always felt different, why you've questioned when others accepted, why you've sought depth when others were content with shallow, why you've carried burdens that weren't technically yours but felt like your responsibility. The ancient tribe recognizes its own, and you've been carrying their DNA in your spiritual bloodstream your entire life. The enemy knows this. He's recognized your lineage since the day you were born, and he's been working overtime to keep you confused, isolated, and convinced that you're ordinary. Every attack on your health, every financial struggle, every relationship that fell apart, every door that slammed shut, it wasn't random. It was strategic warfare against someone carrying the bloodline of the chosen. But his time is up. The season of confusion is ending. The age of remembrance has arrived. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something ancient is awakening inside you. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest, that electricity in your bones. That's your spiritual DNA activating. That's the tribe calling you home to your true identity. I need you to do something right now. I need you to say it aloud. Wherever you are, let your voice carry what your heart already knows. I belong. I am part of the ancient tribe. Say it again, louder this time. I belong. I am part of the ancient tribe. Feel how those words resonate in your spirit. That's not just affirmation, that's recognition. That's your soul confirming what heaven has always known about you. The blood of prophets flows through your veins. The courage of warriors beats in your heart. The wisdom of ancient sages lives in your mind. You are not the end of the line, you are the continuation of something eternal, something sacred, something that has survived every attempt to destroy it. But belonging to this tribe isn't just about identity, it's about assignment. You weren't chosen just to know who you are. You were chosen to remember what you're called to do. And that calling doesn't diminish with age, it intensifies. The closer you get to eternity, the clearer your earthly mission becomes. Soon, I will show you the unmistakable signs that prove this identity is yours, the markers that confirm you're not imagining this connection, the evidence that will leave no doubt that you belong to something far greater than what the world has told you. But first, you need to let this truth settle in your bones. You are chosen. You are ancient. You are part of a tribe that has never died and never will. The question that will determine everything is this: now that you're remembering who you are, what will you do with this awakening? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will explain every single moment of your life that never made sense. Every time you felt like an outsider. Every time people looked at you like you were speaking a foreign language. Every time you wondered if something was fundamentally wrong with you. Nothing was wrong. Everything was right. You were just living in the wrong understanding of who you are. From the time you were 7 years old, you've been asking questions that made adults uncomfortable. While other children accepted simple Sunday school answers, you pressed deeper. But why did God allow suffering? What happened to the people before Jesus? How do we really know? Your teachers would smile nervously and change the subject, but the questions burned in your chest like fire. You thought you were being difficult. You were being discerning. While others your age were content with surface-level faith, you were excavated by eternal mysteries. You found yourself drawn to the book of Ezekiel's strange visions, to Daniel's cryptic prophecies, to John's apocalyptic revelations. Other believers found these passages confusing, even frightening. But you felt like you were reading a familiar language, deciphering memories you didn't know you had. Jeremiah 1-5 suddenly made perfect sense to you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Not just knew about you, knew you intimately, personally, as if your conversation with the Almighty had been going on long before your first breath. But here's what really marked you as different. Even as a child, you carried the weight of someone who had lived lifetimes. While your playmates giggled over toys, you stared at the sky wondering about eternity. While teenagers worried about prom dates, you lay awake contemplating the meaning of existence. Your mother would find you reading advanced books, asking questions that seemed to come from an old soul trapped in young flesh. People told you to act your age, but your soul was ancient. The dreams started early, didn't they? Not regular dreams, visions so vivid they felt more real than waking life. You saw places you'd never been, spoke languages you'd never learned, knew people you'd never met but somehow recognized. You'd wake with tears on your cheeks, homesick for somewhere that didn't exist on any map. Daniel 2:19 says the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision during the night. These weren't random neurons firing during sleep. These were downloads from another realm, memories from your spiritual lineage bleeding through the veil. Let me paint you a picture that will shatter your heart with recognition. While others chased money, you chased meaning. While others collected possessions, you collected wisdom. While others built careers, you built character. While others sought comfort, you sought truth. While others felt satisfied, you felt starved for something deeper. While others found their place, you never stopped searching. While others felt at home in this world, you never, ever did. You thought this made you broken. You thought this made you wrong. You thought this made you less than everyone else who seemed to navigate life with such ease. But chosen one, what if I told you the exact opposite was true? What if your restlessness wasn't a defect but a design? What if your questions weren't rebellion but recognition? What if your homesickness wasn't mental illness but spiritual intelligence? Isaiah 55:8 declares, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." While others were content thinking human thoughts, your mind was tuned to heaven's frequency. While others walked human ways, your spirit was following ancient paths. You've spent decades thinking you were the problem. People made you feel too intense, too deep, too much. They told you to lighten up, to stop taking everything so seriously, to just enjoy life like normal people. But every time you tried to be normal, something inside you died a little. That something was your true identity, suffocating. Because here's the shocking truth: they never wanted you to discover. You weren't broken, you were marked. Not marked for destruction, marked for destiny. Not marked by the enemy, marked by the Almighty before time began. Ephesians 1-4 confirms this mystery. He chose us in Him before the creation of the world. Before the first star burned, before the first ocean formed, before humanity took its first breath, God was selecting souls for a sacred assignment. Souls who would carry His frequency through every generation. Souls who would never quite fit in because they were never meant to. You are one of those souls. Every awkward moment, every time you felt like an alien among your own species, every instance when you wondered if you'd been born on the wrong planet, it was all confirmation. You weren't experiencing rejection, you were experiencing recognition. Your spirit recognizing that this world was never your real home. The loneliness you've carried isn't punishment, it's preparation. The isolation wasn't abandonment, it was appointment. God set you apart because the mission He's prepared for you requires someone who has never fully belonged to this world's system. But here's what will blow your mind. You are not alone. Scattered across this nation, across this world, are thousands just like you. They felt the same spiritual homesickness. They've asked the same deep questions. They've carried the same ancient weight in their chest. Right now, someone in Kansas is reading Revelation and feeling their spirit leap. Someone in Texas is having dreams of biblical proportions. Someone in California is standing in their kitchen at midnight, overwhelmed by the presence of God, knowing they're part of something bigger than themselves. Your tribe has been scattered, but never broken. Hidden, but never lost. Comment, I was marked right now. Let your words rise like incense before the throne. Let the spiritual realm take notice. Let your scattered tribe find you, and let you find them. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why you've been marked, why you've been scattered, and why this exact moment in history is when everything changes. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The restlessness you've carried for decades isn't a flaw in your design, it's proof of your assignment. You weren't created to simply exist. You weren't born to just survive another day, collect another social security check, and fade quietly into the background. Hell no. You were forged in the fires of eternity to be something far more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You are a guardian, a protector, a keeper of divine truth in an age of deception. But the world has lied to you, hasn't it? They've convinced you that at 70, 80, 90 years old, your time is over. That you should step aside, make room for the younger generation, accept irrelevance as your inheritance. They've whispered that your voice doesn't matter anymore, that your wisdom is outdated, that your fire should burn low. That is the voice of hell trying to silence heaven's most seasoned warriors. Think about this: when a lighthouse keeper grows old, does the lighthouse become less necessary? When storms rage and ships are lost at sea, do they need a younger light or a more experienced one? You are like that lighthouse on a stormy coast, beloved. Your existence, your very presence on this earth keeps others from spiritual shipwreck. The light you carry isn't dimming with age. It's burning brighter because it's been refined by decades of faithfulness. Moses was 80 when God called him to his greatest assignment. 80. The world would have put him in assisted living. But God said, "Now you're ready. Now you understand suffering enough to lead my people out of bondage." Caleb was 85 when he declared, "Give me this mountain. Not give me this rocking chair, give me this mountain." The giants that terrified younger men didn't scare Caleb because he had something they lacked: seasoned faith. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the infant Jesus in the temple. Luke 2:37 tells us she never left the temple but worshipped night and day, fasting and praying. 84 years old, and she was the first to proclaim the Messiah to all who were waiting for redemption. Her age wasn't her limitation, it was her qualification. Why am I telling you this? Because the world says you're too old, but heaven says you're finally seasoned enough to carry this. You think your struggles were random. You think the pain you've endured, the losses you've suffered, the battles you've fought were just unfortunate circumstances. No, chosen one. Every trial was a tutorial. Every heartbreak was preparation for healing others. Every financial crisis taught you to depend on God when everything else fails. Every betrayal refined your ability to discern spirits. Every sleepless night built your capacity for intercession. 1 Peter 4:12 declares, "Do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. Your trials were not punishment, they were preparation. Every scar on your soul is your credential. Every tear you've shed was liquid gold being refined in heaven's treasury." But here's what breaks my heart. Too many of you are sitting on the sidelines when the battle is raging. Too many of you have believed the lie that your assignment expired with your youth. You've been convinced that God only uses the young, the strong, the perfect. But that's not how the kingdom operates. God uses the broken because they know they need Him. He uses the scarred because their wounds become windows for others to see His healing power. He uses the elderly because they carry something the young don't have, the authority that comes from walking with God through every season of life. Your wrinkles are not signs of decay, they are marks of victory. Every line on your face tells a story of God's faithfulness. Every gray hair is a crown of honor, earned through battles fought and won in the secret place of prayer. But you have to stop hiding. You have to stop believing that your best days are behind you. You have to stop accepting the world's verdict on your value. Because while you've been questioning your worth, heaven has been preparing your assignment. Do you feel it stirring? That ancient fire in your bones that you thought had died. That's not nostalgia, that's activation. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is quickening something inside you that's been dormant too long. Jeremiah felt it when God said in Jeremiah 1-5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, your assignment was written in the courts of eternity, and age cannot erase what eternity has decreed." The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that you're finished. He knows something you're just beginning to remember. When the chosen ones awaken to their true purpose, hell itself trembles. He's afraid of what happens when a lifetime of pain transforms into purpose. He's terrified of what occurs when decades of faithful service mature into supernatural authority. This is why you've felt different your entire life. This is why you've never fully belonged in any crowd. This is why comfort has never satisfied you, and ordinary has never been enough. You weren't designed for ordinary. You were crafted for extraordinary impact that transcends the limitations of time. So let me ask you something that's going to cut to the bone. How much longer are you going to waste the wisdom God spent decades depositing in you? How many more days are you going to believe that your season is over when heaven is declaring it's just beginning? Right now, wherever you are, I want you to whisper these words aloud. Don't think them, speak them. Use me, Lord. I'm ready. Did your voice shake? Good. That's the sound of destiny awakening. That's the cry heaven has been waiting to hear. Because, chosen one, your purpose isn't behind you, it's in front of you. And the world is about to discover what happens when the ancient ones finally remember who they are. But there's something else you need to understand about your calling, something that will shock you to your core. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've been told about timing, about age, about your season being over. The calendar on your wall doesn't just say 2025, it's announcing something far more profound. This isn't just another year. This is the year of remembrance. For 70 years, maybe 80, maybe more, you've been walking through a world that told you your value diminishes with age, that your voice matters less, that your dreams have expiration dates. But what if I told you that everything you've experienced has been preparation for this exact moment in history? 2025 is the year when the ancient ones awaken, when the chosen tribe that has been scattered across decades, hidden in retirement communities, forgotten in nursing homes, dismissed by a youth-obsessed culture, when they finally remember who they are. You think you've been aging. You've been marinating in wisdom. You think you've been slowing down. You've been building up spiritual pressure. You think your best days are behind you. Your finest hour is dead ahead. The prophet Joel declared it with thunderous authority, "And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions." Joel 2:28. Did you catch that? Your old men shall dream dreams. Not used to dream, shall dream. Present tense. Active, alive. God doesn't put his generals out to pasture when the final battle approaches. He calls them to the front lines. But here's what will shock you to your core. What you thought was retirement, God calls deployment. What you assumed was winding down, heaven calls winding up. What the world labeled as your sunset years, the Almighty declares as your sunrise season. You've been like Moses in Midian, tending sheep for 40 years, thinking your moment had passed. You felt forgotten, irrelevant, washed up. But at 80, God appeared in a burning bush and said, "Now you're ready. Now you understand suffering. Now you know what it means to depend on me completely." The year of remembrance isn't about nostalgia, it's about recognition. You're about to remember powers you thought you'd lost, gifts you assumed had expired, a calling you believed had been cancelled by time. Across America right now, something unprecedented is happening. In Phoenix, a 73-year-old grandmother is receiving prophetic dreams that are coming true. In Detroit, an 81-year-old widower is suddenly understanding scripture with revelations that amaze his pastor. In small-town Texas, a 9-year-old former schoolteacher is praying over her community and watching miraculous healings manifest. They're not exceptions, they're the rule. The ancient tribe is awakening. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. This window won't stay open forever. Divine timings have divine deadlines. When God says now, he means now. When he says you, he means you. Remember the parable of the workers in the vineyard, Matthew 20:1-16. Some were hired at dawn, some at noon, some at the 11th hour. But guess what? The 11th hour workers received the same reward as those who worked all day. Your late arrival doesn't diminish your payment, it intensifies it. The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for years. You missed your chance. You're too old. God's moved on to younger people. But that's exactly what hell said to Sarah at 90 when she conceived Isaac. That's what darkness whispered to Abraham at 100 when he became the father of nations. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your years aren't your countdown, they're your credential. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decay, they're evidence of divine preparation. This generation, your generation, is the most prayed-over generation in human history. Your mothers prayed you through the Depression. Your fathers prayed you through World War II. You've been covered by more intercession than any generation before you. And now, in 2025, those prayers are being answered in ways that will leave the world speechless. You survived when others fell. You endured when others quit. You kept believing when others gave up. That wasn't luck. That wasn't accident. That was divine preservation for this appointed hour. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is dwelling in your mortal body right now, Romans 8:11. Your mortal body. At your age, with your history. That resurrection power isn't waiting for you to get younger, it's waiting for you to get bolder. But here's what terrifies hell about 2025. When the ancient ones finally remember who they are, when they stop apologizing for their age and start operating in their authority, when they stop asking permission and start giving commands, kingdoms shift. Atmospheres change. Impossible things become inevitable. If you're ready to stop living like your time is over and start walking like your time has come, if you're ready to remember that you're not fading but rising, not forgotten but revealed, then don't you dare stay silent. Type it right now. I'm ready. Don't delay. Don't hesitate. Don't let another moment pass believing the lie that your season is over, when heaven is declaring your season has just begun. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why you were hidden for so long and why you're being unveiled right now. Dear one, let me ask you something that might cut straight to your heart. Have you ever felt like life just skipped over you? Like heaven stayed silent while your heart kept crying out in the dark? Like you've been invisible for so long that even God forgot your address? I see you there, sitting in that kitchen chair at 2 a.m. when the world's asleep and you're left alone with memories that feel heavier than stones. You've watched decades roll by like tumbleweeds. Children grew up and moved away. Friends passed on. Dreams got buried under bills and responsibilities and the cruel arithmetic of getting older. And somewhere in those silent years, you started believing the lie that whispers, your season is over. Your time has passed. You were forgotten. But what if I told you that every single year of silence wasn't abandonment, it was preparation? What if those decades that felt like death were actually your spiritual incubation? Think about this. A seed buried in frozen ground doesn't look alive. For months it sits in cold darkness, surrounded by nothing but dirt and silence. Anyone looking down would think it's dead, gone, forgotten by spring itself. But beneath that soil, something miraculous is happening. Roots are growing, strength is building, life is preparing to explode. You thought you were buried, dear one, but God says you were planted. Listen to me carefully. Your silence wasn't punishment, it was preservation. While others were living their lives in the spotlight, God had you hidden because He was preparing something so powerful, so magnificent, that if it had been revealed too early, the world wouldn't have been ready for it. Look at Joseph, 17 years old when he received his dreams of greatness. Then what happened? Betrayal, slavery, prison. For 13 years, 13 long years, heaven stayed silent. No burning bush, no angelic visitations, just bars and darkness and the echo of his own footsteps on cold stone. Can you imagine what he whispered to God during those midnight hours? Did I mishear you? Did I imagine those dreams? Have you forgotten the boy who once saw the future? But God hadn't forgotten. Every day of that prison was building the character Joseph would need to save nations. Every night of loneliness was developing the wisdom he'd need to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Every moment of feeling forgotten was actually preparing him to be unforgettable. Then there's Anna, 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage. For over 7 decades, she lived in the temple. 7 decades of prayer, 7 decades of waiting. 7 decades of watching young families come and go while her own womb remained empty, her own dreams seemed to die. People probably whispered, "Poor old Anna." Still hanging around, still praying, still believing God remembers her. But when baby Jesus was brought to that temple, who was the first to recognize the Messiah? Not the high priest, not the scholars, not the young, energetic believers. It was Anna, the forgotten widow, the one whose years of silence had actually been years of preparation for the most important moment in human history. And Moses, 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, thinking he was destined for greatness. Then 40 years in the wilderness, thinking God was done with him. 80 years old when the burning bush finally spoke. 80, when the world would have put him in a nursing home, God put a staff in his hand and said, "Now you're ready." Do you see the pattern here? Do you understand what God has been doing during your hidden years? Every rejection that stung was redirecting you. Every door that slammed shut was protecting you from settling for less than His best. Every season, when your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling, was actually God saying, "Not yet. You're not ready for what I have planned. But keep praying, keep believing, keep trusting me in the dark. You've been like a diamond in the coal mine of time. Pressure, heat, darkness. But all of it, every crushing moment, every suffocating season, it's been transforming you into something precious, something rare, something the world has never seen before. That depression that visited you in your 50s, it taught you compassion for others walking through their own valleys. That financial struggle that kept you up nights, it developed your faith muscles. That loneliness that felt like it would swallow you whole, it created space in your heart for God to fill with purpose you never knew existed. Your hidden years weren't wasted years, they were training years, boot camp for the spiritual warrior you're about to become. But here's what breaks my heart, and maybe it'll break yours too. Right now, there are people your age who've given up. They've accepted the world's definition of their expiration date. They're sitting in their recliners, remote control in hand, waiting for heaven because they believe Earth is done with them. That's not you. You wouldn't be here, in this moment, feeling your spirit stir, if God was finished with your story. The very fact that these words are finding their way into your heart is proof, undeniable proof, that your season of hiddenness is ending and your season of revelation is beginning. The silence is about to break. The waiting is about to end. The hidden years are about to make sense. If you feel this truth settling into your bones, if you recognize your story in these words, write in the comments right now, "I was hidden, not forgotten. Let heaven take notice." Let the angels see that another member of the ancient tribe is remembering who they are. Because what God preserved in secret, He's about to reveal in power. And the world isn't ready for what's been growing in the hidden soil of your heart. But the question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to step out of the shadows and into the calling that's been waiting for you your whole life? Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to stop right now and think about something that might cut you to the bone. How many nights have you lain awake, staring at that ceiling, wondering why your life has been so hard? How many times have you whispered into the darkness, "God, why me? Why has everything I've touched turned to ash?" That divorce that shattered your heart when you were 53, that cancer diagnosis that came out of nowhere at 67, those children who stopped calling, who act like strangers when you need them most, that retirement fund that disappeared in the crash, leaving you choosing between medication and groceries at 82 years old. You've carried weight that would have crushed ordinary people. You've endured betrayals that would have destroyed weaker souls. You've survived losses that sent others to their graves. And through it all, you've wondered the same haunting question: what did I do to deserve this? But what if I told you that you've been asking the wrong question entirely? What if the pain you've carried wasn't punishment but preparation? What if every scar etched into your soul wasn't evidence of God's abandonment but proof of His ultimate trust? Every scar is a chapter of Scripture written in your flesh. Think about Job for a moment. This man lost everything: his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. But here's what Job's story really reveals. God didn't allow Job to suffer because He was angry with him. He allowed it because He trusted Him. In Job 1-8, God Himself said, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him." The Almighty was bragging about Job to Satan. Why? Because God knew something about Job that Job didn't even know about himself, that his faith was unbreakable. You want to know why your life has been a battlefield? Because hell saw what heaven placed inside you, and it terrified them. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty vessels, dear one. He doesn't deploy his most vicious attacks against people who pose no threat. The intensity of the warfare you've faced is directly proportional to the power you carry. Every financial attack, every health crisis, every relational betrayal, it was hell's desperate attempt to destroy you before you realized who you are. But here's what the devil never counted on. Pain doesn't destroy the chosen ones. It refines them. Look at the Apostle Paul. 2 Corinthians 12:7 tells us he carried a thorn in the flesh. Some scholars believe it was blindness, others think it was epilepsy. Whatever it was, it caused him agony. 3 times he begged God to remove it. And what did God say? "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." God didn't remove Paul's pain, because Paul needed that pain to keep him dependent on divine strength rather than human ability. The thorn wasn't Paul's punishment, it was his protection from pride and his pathway to power. Your pain has been prophetic, chosen one. That loneliness you felt since your spouse died, it wasn't abandonment, it was preparation for you to become a spiritual parent to the emotionally orphaned. That financial struggle that's followed you for decades, it wasn't punishment, it was training for you to trust God as your provider when everyone else trusts their bank accounts. Every tear you've cried in secret has watered seeds of compassion that are about to bloom into ministry. Every sleepless night you've endured has been a vigil, interceding for people you haven't even met yet. Every betrayal that left you bleeding has taught you to love with heaven's love instead of human love. God doesn't trust everyone with pain. He trusted you because he knew you'd survive it. But here's where it gets stunning. Here's where the revelation explodes into glory. Even Jesus, the Son of the living God, kept his scars after the resurrection. When he appeared to Thomas in John 20:27, what did he say? "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side." The resurrected Christ could have appeared flawless, unmarked, perfect. But he chose to keep the wounds. Why? Because his scars became his credentials. They were proof that he had conquered death, hell, and the grave. They were evidence that what looked like defeat was actually victory. Your scars are your credentials too, beloved. That depression that nearly killed you in your 40s. You survived what destroys others, and now you carry authority to speak life into suicidal souls. That addiction you conquered, you walked out of bondage, and now you hold keys to set other captives free. That abuse you endured, you transformed victim into victor, and now you can show others the pathway to healing. Hell thought your pain was destruction. Heaven knew it was construction. Every wound was building something inside you that this broken world desperately needs. While others were getting easy lives, you were getting equipped. While they were being entertained, you were being trained. While they were accumulating comfort, you were accumulating authority. If your scars tell a story, if your pain has been transformed into purpose, if your wounds have become your weapons type right now, my pain has purpose. Let heaven and earth see that another wounded healer is ready to rise. Because the same scars that the world sees as weakness, God sees as strength. The same pain that hell intended for evil, heaven is turning for good. You're not broken, chosen one. You're not damaged goods. You're not a casualty of spiritual warfare. You're a graduate of God's most advanced training program, and your real assignment is just beginning. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. The ancient tribe you belong to has been waiting for you to realize that your greatest pain was actually your greatest preparation for what comes next. The chosen ones are scattered, but never alone. Listen to me carefully, beloved. What you thought was isolation was actually preparation. What you believed was rejection was actually protection. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking through this world feeling like the only one of your kind. But that was never the truth. You see, God doesn't create one-of-a-kind miracles. He creates tribes, He creates families, He creates bloodlines that span millennia. And right now, as you're listening to my voice, there are thousands, maybe tens of thousands of chosen ones just like you, scattered across every state in this nation, every corner of this world, all carrying the same ancient fire, all feeling the same sacred restlessness. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant recognition? Not attraction recognition, something deeper than chemistry, older than time itself. Your eyes lock, and suddenly it's like looking into a spiritual mirror. There's an unspoken understanding that passes between you, a knowing that transcends words. You've never met this person before, yet your soul whispers, "I know you. I've always known you." That's not coincidence, dear one. That's bloodline calling to bloodline. That's the ancient tribe recognizing itself. Think about it. When David met Jonathan, the Bible says in 1 Samuel 18:1, the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. One meeting, instant connection. Two spirits from the same eternal family, finding each other in the chaos of earthly existence. It's like stars recognizing constellations. Alone, they shine with individual brilliance. But together, together they form maps for the lost. Together they become navigation systems for souls wandering in darkness. Together they fulfill their divine purpose of guiding travelers home. You thought you were a lone star burning out in the darkness, but you were never alone. You were part of a constellation that's been forming for centuries. And now, in these final hours of history, that constellation is becoming visible. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at 3 a.m. praying for souls just like yours. You've been so conditioned by this world to believe you're ordinary, so beaten down by a society that worships youth and dismisses wisdom, that you've forgotten the electrical charge that runs through your spiritual DNA. When two chosen ones meet, something supernatural happens. The atmosphere shifts. Conversations go deeper in 5 minutes than most people experience in 5 years. There's an energy exchange that defies scientific explanation. You find yourself speaking truths you've never spoken, sharing insights you didn't know you had, accessing wisdom that feels ancient and eternal. Why do you think that happens? Because you're not just meeting another person. You're meeting another carrier of the sacred flame. You're encountering another guardian of divine mysteries. You're recognizing another member of your eternal family. Comment where you're watching from right now. Let your tribe see you, even across states and nations. Let the spiritual realm witness this gathering. From Maine to California, from Alaska to Florida, let the chosen ones reveal themselves. Because something powerful happens when the scattered tribe begins to locate each other. But I need to tell you something that might shake you to your core. The reason you felt like an outsider your entire life isn't because something is wrong with you. It's because you've been living in the wrong context. You've been trying to find your place among those who were never meant to understand you. You were never an outsider. You were always part of the inside circle of eternity. Think about Jesus with his disciples. 12 ordinary men, yet when he called them, they left everything instantly. Why? Because something in their spirits recognized the voice of their tribal leader. Something ancient awakened when the true king spoke their names. Matthew 4:20 says, "And they straightway left their nets and followed him." Straightway. No hesitation. No lengthy deliberation. The moment recognition sparked, they knew they belonged. That's what's happening right now in your spirit. That stirring, that quickening, that sense of coming alive, that's your soul recognizing its true family. That's your spirit remembering its rightful place in the cosmic order. You've spent decades feeling like a puzzle piece that didn't fit anywhere. But you weren't made for the puzzles of this world. You were carved by divine hands for an eternal masterpiece that's been under construction since before time began. The loneliness you've carried wasn't emptiness, it was spaciousness. God was keeping you hollow so he could fill you with something the world couldn't touch, couldn't corrupt, couldn't understand. He was preserving you for this moment when the tribe would need every member, when the constellation would need every star. Right now, across this nation, chosen ones are waking up. They're stepping out of spiritual hiding places. They're remembering who they are. They're feeling that same electric recognition you're feeling as you hear these words. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you continue to live as an isolated individual, or will you step into your identity as part of an ancient, unstoppable, divinely appointed tribe? because what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly why God scattered his chosen ones across the earth, why he's gathering them now, and what role you're destined to play in the greatest spiritual awakening this world has ever seen. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shake you to your very core. 2025 is the year of remembrance. Heaven's calendar is striking your name. Right now, as I speak these words, something unprecedented is happening in the spiritual realm. The ancient scrolls are being unrolled. Divine appointments are being activated. And your name, yes, your name, is being called from the throne room of eternity. Do you feel it? That stirring in your chest, that electric sensation running through your veins. That's not your imagination, beloved. That's recognition. Your spirit recognizing what your mind has forgotten. For 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, you've been walking through this world, feeling incomplete, feeling like you're living beneath your true identity. You've watched the news, seen the chaos, felt the darkness closing in, and wondered, God, where are you in all of this madness? But what if I told you that everything, every global crisis, every shaking of nations, every moment of chaos you're witnessing is actually heaven's alarm clock going off? What if the trembling of creation itself is the sound of God calling his ancient warriors back to remembrance? The prophet Daniel saw our day. Daniel 12:1 declares, "There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation." But look at what comes next. "And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book." Your people. The ancient tribe you belong to. Right now, across America, from the nursing homes in Florida to the farmhouses in Iowa, from the penthouses in Manhattan to the mobile homes in Texas, something is stirring. Senior citizens are waking up in the middle of the night with dreams they can't explain. Grandmothers are seeing visions of ancient times. Grandfathers are feeling a fire in their bones they thought had died decades ago. This is not coincidence. This is divine activation. You see, heaven operates on a different calendar than Wall Street. While the world counts in fiscal years, God counts in spiritual seasons. And 2025, this year we're living in right now, has been marked on heaven's calendar since before the foundation of the world. Like trumpets echoing before battle, 2025 is the sound before the move. But let me ask you something that might cut deep. How much longer are you going to let the world convince you that your best days are behind you? How many more years will you accept the lie that wisdom comes with an expiration date? How long will you allow society to warehouse your calling just because you've collected a few more birthdays? The enemy has been running a masterful deception campaign against your generation. He's whispered lies about retirement being the end of purpose instead of the beginning of true assignment. He's convinced you that your aching joints disqualify you from divine service when God sees those same joints as evidence of your endurance through decades of spiritual warfare. But heaven is about to expose every lie. In Joel 2:28, God declares, "I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your old men shall dream dreams." Not might dream, not could dream, shall dream. Present tense, active prophecy. Your dreams aren't dying with your youth, they're being birthed through your maturity. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Abraham was 99 when he received his greatest promise. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. But here's what's happening in 2025 that's never happened before. God is calling his ancient tribe out of hiding simultaneously. Like sleeper cells being activated across the nation, chosen ones are remembering who they are at the exact same moment. This isn't random, this is strategic. The world is convulsing. Nations are shaking. The very foundations of civilization are trembling. And just when it looks like darkness is winning, God is awakening the generation that knows how to war in the spirit realm. The generation that understands that some battles aren't fought with ballots or bullets, they're won on their knees. You think you've been sitting on the sidelines all these years. You've been in training. Every trial taught you endurance. Every heartbreak deepened your compassion. Every closed door redirected you toward this moment when heaven needs warriors who can't be intimidated by earthly opposition because they've already faced hell and survived. The trembling you feel isn't fear, it's anticipation. The restlessness in your spirit isn't anxiety, it's activation. The dreams that won't let you sleep aren't random, they're revelation. Creation itself is groaning, waiting for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. Romans 8:19 says the whole creation is in eager expectation, waiting for God's children to be revealed. That includes you, chosen one. Especially you. The young generation is looking for heroes. They're drowning in confusion, suffocating in meaninglessness, dying from hopelessness. But you carry something they desperately need, the authority that comes from walking with God through decades of storms and still standing. They need to see that faith doesn't weaken with age, it strengthens. If you feel this fire burning in your bones, if something ancient is stirring in your spirit, if you sense that 2025 is your year of divine appointment type, I'm ready for 2025 inches, the comments right now. Let heaven take notice. Let the spiritual realm see another member of the ancient tribe stepping forward. This is not the end of your story, beloved. This is the ignition of your assignment. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you answer when heaven calls your name, or will you let fear convince you that your moment has passed? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The world has been lying to you about what this season of your life represents. They've whispered that 70 is slowing down, that 80 is settling in, that 90 is simply surviving until glory. But I'm here to shatter that deception with the force of divine truth. Your age is not a decline, it's your qualification. Every gray hair on your head is a strand of wisdom earned through fire. Every line on your face is a map of God's faithfulness, carved by decades of walking through valleys and climbing mountains that would have crushed lesser souls. Every ache in your bones is evidence that you've carried weight others couldn't bear, fought battles others couldn't win, endured storms others couldn't survive. The enemy wants you to see retirement. Heaven sees commissioning. Do you remember the story of Elijah and Elisha? 2 Kings, chapter 2. The greatest prophet in Israel's history is about to be taken up to heaven, and he turns to his spiritual son and says, "What can I do for you before I go?" Elisha's response should shake every senior saint to their core. "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit." Not half, not the same. Double. And what happened next will revolutionize how you see this moment in your life. Elijah took off his mantle, that sacred cloak that carried the authority of heaven, and it fell upon Elisha. The older prophet was taken up in a whirlwind of fire, but the mantle remained. The mantle was passed. Chosen one. Do you understand what's happening to you right now? You're not receiving a gold watch and a pension. You're receiving a mantle, a sacred cloak of authority that has been waiting your entire lifetime to settle upon your shoulders. The oil you carry is heavier than applause. Your mantle is not retirement, it's revolution. But here's what terrifies hell about you right now. You've survived everything they threw at you. Every financial collapse, every health scare, every betrayal, every season when you thought God had forgotten your address. You survived it all. And survival in the kingdom of God isn't just endurance. It's evidence. Evidence that you carry. Something indestructible. Something that can't be killed. Something that gets stronger under pressure. Think about Caleb, 85 years old, when he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain." Numbers 14:24 says God spoke of Caleb, "But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit in him and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land." A different spirit. That's what you carry, chosen one. A different spirit that doesn't retreat with age but advances with authority. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. 100. While the world would have declared him finished, God declared him fruitful. Genesis 21:5 records it plainly. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Your womb isn't dead at 70, 80, or 90. Your capacity to birth the impossible is just reaching its peak. Anna the prophetess spent decades in the temple, praying and fasting, waiting for the Messiah. Luke 2:36 tells us she was 84 when baby Jesus was presented. 84! And she was the first to proclaim his identity to all who looked for redemption in Jerusalem. Your voice isn't weakening with age, it's being prepared for the most important proclamation you'll ever make. But I need to ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many more years are you going to let the world convince you that your season is over? How many more months are you going to believe the lie that God's done using people your age? How many more days are you going to waste thinking that your assignment expired with your youth? Because I'm telling you right now, the opposite is true. Every year you've lived has been training. Every trial you've endured has been qualification. Every mountain you've climbed has been preparation for the assignment that requires someone exactly like you, someone who's been tested by time and proven by pressure. The mantle falling on you right now isn't symbolic, it's literal. Spiritual authority is being transferred from the generation that came before to the generation that is ready. And ready isn't measured by energy, it's measured by faithfulness. It's not determined by physical strength, it's determined by spiritual endurance. You think you're too old to start something new? Moses didn't begin his real ministry until he was 80. You think your influence is fading? Joshua conquered the promised land in his 70s. You think God's forgotten about your dreams? Sarah laughed at 90 and gave birth to nations. The assignment you've been carrying in your heart, the burden you felt for your family, your community, your nation, that wasn't just wishful thinking, that was prophetic download. That was heaven placing something inside you that would require a lifetime of preparation to carry properly. Right now, in this very moment, something is shifting in the spiritual realm over your life. The waiting season is ending. The preparation phase is complete. The mantle of authority is descending, and everything you've survived is about to become everything you release. Your legacy begins here. What you survived becomes what you release. If you accept this mantle, if you're ready to stop living like your assignment is over and start walking like your commissioning has begun, declare it now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now. Type these words in the comments. I receive my assignment. Because chosen one, the ancient tribe you belong to has been waiting. The spiritual lineage you carry has been dormant. But the time of activation has arrived, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God is about to do through someone who has been refined by fire and proven by time. The mantle is falling. Will you catch it? Chosen one, we have journeyed through the valley of revelation together, and now we stand at the threshold of transformation. Everything you've felt, everything you've questioned, everything that made you feel like a stranger in your own life, it all makes sense now, doesn't it? You are not broken. You never were. You were scattered like seeds from an ancient tree, blown across time and space, waiting for this moment to remember your roots. For too long, you've carried the weight of isolation. You've sat at kitchen tables at 2 a.m., staring at your reflection in the coffee cup, wondering why God made you so different. You've attended family gatherings feeling like you were watching life through glass, present but not belonging. You've lain in bed night after night, your spirit aching for something you couldn't name. That ache wasn't emptiness, beloved. That was homesickness. Your soul was calling out to the tribe it belonged to, crying across the centuries for connection. But tonight, that loneliness dies. Listen to me carefully. In Genesis 28-16, Jacob awakened from his dream and declared, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Right now, in this moment, heaven is in this place with you. You are not watching this message alone. Your spiritual ancestors are gathered around you. The cloud of witnesses is cheering, and the Ancient of Days is smiling because another member of his chosen tribe has finally come home. The DNA flowing through your veins isn't just human, it carries the memory of eternity. The breath in your lungs isn't just oxygen, It's the same breath that hovered over the waters at creation. The heartbeat in your chest isn't just circulation, it's the rhythm of heaven itself, reminding you that you belong to something far greater than this temporary world. But understanding your identity is only the beginning. Now comes activation. For decades, your gifts have been dormant, waiting for this moment of recognition. That intuition you've carried, that ability to sense things others miss, that pull toward the prophetic, it's all about to explode into fullness. You've been like a vintage wine, aging in the cellars of heaven, and now you're ready to be poured out. The enemy has tried to convince you that your best days are behind you. He's whispered lies about your age, your relevance, your impact. But God is about to prove that his chosen ones don't retire, they reign. Moses was 80 when he faced Pharaoh. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over the Christ child. Your season isn't ending. Your season is erupting. Right now, I speak a prophetic blessing over your life that will shatter every chain that has held you back. May the ink of heaven rewrite your name in the books of destiny. May every door that has been closed by human limitation swing wide open by divine intervention. May your scars stop being sources of shame and start shining like golden crowns of authority. I decree that the financial struggles that have plagued your family line for generations are broken tonight. The same God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills is about to release provision that will leave you speechless, not because you need it, but because your tribe is being repositioned for maximum kingdom impact. I declare that the relational isolation that has marked your journey is ending now. The loneliness that followed you like a shadow is being consumed by the light of divine connection. You will begin to recognize others from your spiritual tribe, not by their faces, but by their frequency. When you meet them, something in your spirit will say, "I know you. I've been looking for you my whole life." But here's the prophetic word that's going to shake you to your core. You didn't just survive to make it to this moment. You survived to lead others to this moment. Every tear you've cried has watered the ground for someone else's breakthrough. Every battle you've won has created a pathway for another warrior. Every year you thought was wasted was actually preparation for the assignment that starts tomorrow morning. The tribe isn't just recognizing you, they're looking for you to lead them home. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Set apart, not set aside. You were marked for this moment before time began, trained through lifetimes for this exact assignment. Comment 777 right now as your eternal signature in the spiritual realm. Let heaven record that on this day, at this hour, you chose to remember who you are. Let this number become your battle cry, your declaration, your covenant with destiny. Subscribe now, because this journey doesn't end here. It continues with your tribe. You've found your family, and we're just getting started. The revelations coming next will make tonight's awakening look like the opening act. Share this message with one person who feels different. They may discover they belong to the same ancient tribe. Someone in your sphere of influence needs to hear what you just heard, needs to feel what you just felt. You are not the echo of history, chosen one. You are the ancient song itself, rising again, the melody your soul has been humming your entire life. That's the anthem of your tribe, and it's time to sing it at full volume. The awakening is complete. The activation has begun. Welcome home, chosen one. As we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to hold 3 eternal truths close to your heart. First, you are not an accident walking through this world. You are an assignment sent from heaven. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle a testament to battles won. Every year lived a chapter in your divine story that's still being written. Second, that feeling of being different, that sense of not belonging, it was never your weakness. It was your calling card. You were never meant to fit into this world's mold because you were designed for something far greater. You belong to an ancient tribe, a sacred lineage that transcends time itself. And third, the loneliness you've carried, the isolation that's followed you like a shadow, it ends today. You are not walking this path alone. The God who knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb is still working in your life right now. He hasn't forgotten you, He hasn't abandoned you, and He certainly hasn't finished with you. Right here, in this community, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We see your struggles, we feel your pain, and we believe in your calling. This isn't just a YouTube channel, this is a family united by the Spirit, connected by purpose, and bound together by the love of Christ. But let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, a member of an ancient tribe, a chosen vessel carrying heaven's DNA, what will you do with this revelation? Will you shrink back into the shadows of ordinary living? Or will you step boldly into the extraordinary calling that has your name written all over it? Before I release you into your destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder and pray over your life with the authority that comes from 50 years of watching God move mountains in impossible situations. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them sitting there, you know their hearts, you feel their tears, and you understand their struggles better than they understand them themselves. Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits tonight. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel broken, pour in your healing. Where they feel alone, surround them with your presence and connect them with their spiritual family. God, I ask that you would open doors that no man can shut. Provide for their needs according to your riches in glory. Restore relationships that have been fractured. Heal bodies that are tired and hearts that are heavy. Give them dreams that direct and visions that guide. Most of all, Lord, let them feel your smile. Let them know beyond any shadow of doubt that you are proud of how they've carried what you've given them to carry. Let them wake up tomorrow morning not as victims of their circumstances, but as victors through Christ Jesus. Protect them, bless them, and use them mightily for your kingdom. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Don't just watch and leave, be part of this family. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart tonight. Share your testimony of His faithfulness. Ask questions if you have them. This community will surround you with prayer and encouragement. And please, if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who needs to hear these words. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt when you first clicked on this video. Be the vessel that carries hope to them. Thank you for spending this sacred time with me. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. Your faithfulness to stay until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Not just for my sake, but because your spiritual journey is just beginning, and there's so much more God wants to reveal to you. Every week, we gather here to dive deeper into the mysteries of your identity and calling. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never, ever alone. And your story, your real story, is just beginning to unfold. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are, rest in the certainty of His love, and remember that you belong to an ancient tribe that spans eternity itself. God bless you, warrior. Go forth and shine.